Hi guys, welcome to our second session for week 2. I hope everyone's doing okay today. As you can hear from my voice, I hope I'm loud enough for you guys. It's about as loud as I can talk today. I definitely come down with a cold. Today we are going to go through the assessment demo. The Go-Getter Guide to this week's assessment. Our next lecture will be Monday of week 3 at 4 p.m. Mountain Time. Excuse me. This week's assessment starts with a memo from Regal Theaters. It says the design review we conducted at the end of last week went very well. Now that DB Solutions has successfully finished the initial design of the movie database, we request that you put together a working prototype of the database. In particular, we would like you to demonstrate 2 queries involving the director table and 2 queries involving the movie table. And please deliver your working prototype by the end of the week, Saturday midnight. So we are going to be creating a database. Now, if you used MySQL Workbench last week to build your ERD, this is going to be super easy. All you need to do is check your data types to make sure they match. If you did not use MySQL Workbench, you will need to build the database using the code in the assignment worksheet. The code that you need is actually typed there in the assessment worksheet for you to use. Those of you that used MySQL, though, are going to have it much easier. You can see here, this is the stuff we need for our director table. So what I'm going to do is move my zoom bar out of the way here. I'm going to shrink this down just a little bit so we can pull MySQL up beside it here so I can see what I need. And I'm going to go to the Regal Theaters database in my right sidebar and double click it. So it's highlighted black. I'm going to go down to my tables, and the first table is directors. So I'm going to click on that directors table, and I'm going to hit the little wrench icon and give MySQL a second. And it pulls up all my IDs. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check my table names. Got the director ID, first name, last name. Now, it doesn't say we need this, the FR from movie ID, but I'm going to leave it on here because I know at some point we're going to need it. So I'm not going to take it off. But I am going to check my attributes. So we've got the integer attribute. Now, our table says number, but as you see here, there isn't one that actually says number. That's because a number is an integer, as all of you guys know. And now it says it needs to be 2 places. It has a 2 and a comma 0, but I want to show you guys something. We're going to do it like it shows. 2 0. 2 comma 0. And our next one, integer 2 comma 0, the given data type. No. So what does that 2 0 mean? Well, it means this. Your data type needs to be 2 digits. So we can put 2 there. That 0 indicates that it should not be null. It can't be empty. So you're going to check that not null. And then we're going to go to our characters. Now this calls for a varchar. And it actually says varchar 2, but that does not exist. There's no varchar 2. So we can change it to simple varchar, and it says it needs to be 30 characters. And the last name is the same. So we're just going to add the var in front of that. And oops, it needs to be 30 characters as well. Change that. And I'm going to leave the, oops, I did not mean to add that. Delete that. Come on, there it goes. And now that's my director table. Okay, so the next one is the movie table. I'm going to hit the wrench icon in it. And give MySQL a second to work. There we go. Movie title, movie ID should be a number and not a character. So I'm going to change that to number. Oops, to integer. And 2 places and not null, which we have. And then we have the varchar. And it's supposed to be 75. And then the gener is varchar 50. Oops. And then the MPA is a character of 5. And the release date is date. The length is an integer. And 11. Now it says 3, 0. But it's not 3, guys. It is 11. You need 11 spaces. The FR director ID is an integer and it says 2, and it's not null. So I'm going to hit apply and apply. Error. There was an error while applying your SQL database. Error. Cannot change column movie ID used in a 4-key constraint or table. Regal Theaters movie star. Okay. So back. This one. Because let's cancel it. This should not actually not be a foreign key. We're going to change this to director underscore ID, like that. Cannot change column movie ID. Oops, movie ID. Oh, because it's using a foreign column. Let's go here. And we are going to release, we're going to delete this one. Delete. Let's go ahead and apply this one. Finish up and then go back to my other tab and apply. There was an error while playing your SQL script in the database. Cannot change column movie ID. It's not used in a foreign constraint anymore. Right click. Refresh all. Apply. It's still telling me it's being used somewhere. It might be in the movie table. Let's see. Columns. Yep, right there. So I'm going to have to open up my movie star. And go to my foreign keys. And I'm going to remove them. Apply. Finish. And let's check the movie columns. We should be good now. Apply. There we go. Now it's working. Okay, so I had to get rid of those foreign columns. Now I'm going to close all those tabs and open up new SQL. And the next thing after you've done all your tables, excuse me guys, sorry about that. The next thing is your assessment tells you that after you build your databases that you need to use the describe command and show each of the tables. So if you remember from yesterday, it's simple. Describe and the table name, so directors, semicolon, and run it and take a screenshot. of this entire thing right here. Take a screenshot like that and paste it into your Word document, and then do the same thing for the movie table. Run it, take a new screenshot, and paste that into the Word document. And that's your task 1. And then task 2, actually that's task 1 and 2. In task 2 and task 3, it wants you to insert this data into your database. So I'm going to open up a new SQL. And if you remember from yesterday, let's see if we can fit all of this on here so I can see it close. There we go. We are going to use this insert into in the table, and then we're going to do the values. So my first line is going to go insert into director values, these 1, comma, oops, case sensitive Stephen, comma, Spielberg, quote, in my parentheses. There's my first one. And then I'm going to do insert into director values 2, comma, quote, Ron, comma, Howard, like that. That is my director table database. I'm going to run it. See, it comes through just fine. And task 3 says, put your SQL insert statement here. So once you've run that, take a screenshot of this little bit of code that's right there. Take a screenshot of your code and place it in there, or you can copy and paste the text and paste it in the Word document. However you guys want to do that is fine. And then you're going to do your movie table. So we're going to do insert into movie values, and I'm going to say 1, comma, quotes, oops, Apollo, I can spell it right, Apollo 13, quotes, comma, quote, drama, quote, comma, oops, quote, PG, quote, comma, and our date, which also has to be in quotes since it's not just numbers. So 91095-06-30, comma, 140, comma, 2, quote. And then I'm going to copy all of this, my enter key, and paste it. And this is going to be 2. And the next movie is Jaws. And it's a drama, and it's PG. The date is 1975-06-20. And it's 130 minutes long. And it's directed by Spielberg, which is director ID 1. Oh, I forgot my semicolon there. And I forgot my semicolon there. And enter, paste, And this is going to be 3. And this time my movie is E.T. the Extraterrestrial. And it's a fantasy instead of a drama. And it's also PG. The date, however, is 1982-06-11. And it's 121, and its director 1, my semicolon, and paste again. And this is movie 4. And the name of this movie is Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And it is science fiction. And it's PG. And it's 1977. I typed 1/6 there. Close Encounters date is November the 16th. So I accidentally did that backwards. It should be 11. And this should be 16. And it's 140. And it was directed by Spielberg, which is 1. And my semicolon. And that is all of my movies. So let's see if I have any syntax errors. Hit run it, and we're good. So take a screenshot of it. And then we're ready to move on to the next stage. So after that, it tells you, after you've done all that, in task 3, you also have to show the data from each database. So delete all of this. And you're just going to run the generic statement. So you're going to do select, spell select correct, select from director, and run it, and take a screenshot. There's our director information, and then change this to movie and run it again. And there's all of our movies. Take a screenshot. And that's task 4. Now, task 5 and 6 are both queries. Queries that say demonstrate a query using the movie table that lists the title and length of each movie. The title and the length. Well, that is your standard what? How are we going to start that? What do we use first? Yes, the select statement. So what are we selecting? It says list the title and length of each movie. Yes, so we would go select length. What is our column name? It's length, comma, and title. Yes, from the movie database. And run it, and select length, title from movie. Well, what is wrong? I misspelled length. There we go. And run it, and there it is. There's our length, and there's our title. Now your second query says demonstrate a second query using the movie table that lists the title and links of those movies that have a running length of more than 2 hours and 10 minutes. Now I want you to notice something. Something has changed. In the first query, it said, oh, it said list the title and link too. I have them backwards, guys. Make sure you get them in the right order as it asks for length from the movie database. So how do we filter those? How do we filter that condition? What do we say? Yes. Where? Where what? Where the length more than is greater. Yes. So the greater sign. So 2 hours and 10 minutes. How many minutes is that? 130. Let's see what we get. And there it is. We have 2-minute movies that are longer than 130 minutes. Apollo 13 and Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And that, guys, is the end of your assessment. Now, yesterday, everyone that attended the live lecture got a nice little help sheet for this week's assignment. It also has help for last week's assignment too. If you struggled with that, you can use this as help and to help as we move through the next couple of weeks, because you're going to be using these SQL statements over and over and over. And the nice thing is I set up this help sheet to be interactive. So, give it a second to open here. So you can, this is the start of it, and it has a table of contents. If you want to look at the week 1 assignment help, you can click on week 1 and it'll bring it right to you. And it tells you that what kind of statement you're going to be using in each one of the questions on the week 1 assignment. So when it comes to week 2, it's the same thing. Just click on week 2, and there they are. Now then, it also has a glossary that lists all of the functions. So week 2, you go to number 1 and it says, okay, create table statement, and you're going to be using the describe statement. So you want to look both of those up. And this is how I suggest you guys use this help sheet is read the question in your assignment first and try and figure out what causes you're supposed to be using, and then go to the help sheet and look at week 2. See if you're right. It's a great way to test yourself, but also make sure you don't get something wrong. So in this case, you know you need to look at the create table and the described statement. You can't remember how they're supposed to look. So on the contents tab, you can go down, let's see, order by. Select, there's my create table. It's under the statements. You can just click on statements and it brings you to the statements section. There's your create table. All you have to do is put in your information. And on ones that I thought you may struggle with as far as being able to look at the syntax example and fill in the information, I gave you an example underneath it with actual table names and column names with the data types, just as a reminder to help you. And you just set up your query the exact same way in SQL and run it, and it'll work. And then the describe statement, of course, is easy. Describe and put in the table name. And you're good to go. And all of the questions are there for the entire week 2 assessment. Your chapter 3. And if you scroll down, there's chapter 4. And in the glossary, you're going to find everything you could possibly need for any of those queries. I even put the information for the computing columns. And as you can see, let's scroll down, there it is, the computing columns I essentially gave you the code you're going to need to figure out that query. So I gave you good examples on anything I thought you might struggle with, and divided it out. If there was more, one example of the clause, I put it on here. Okay, I gave you a good working example of that one instead of just syntax. But ones that were fairly easy, like your select statement, select your generic select statement, which is select everything in the table. I just simply told you, enter the table name here and select your column 1, column 2 names from table name. The ones that I felt like you guys could easily follow, I just gave you the syntax. Others, I gave you actual working examples. And here's a like. So I thought might get a little complicated for you guys. So I wrote it out for you. Where trip ID ends, select trip ID from trip where trip tide equals paddling. This is one of the complicated ones on assessment 2, where you have to do that nested select statement. So I wrote it out for you guys so that you could really follow it. But I want you guys to try and figure this out on your own. It's a good way to test your memory and make sure you're remembering this stuff, because you guys are taking another class over SQL. And in that class, you are going to be building a full-fledged working web database, custom queries, and the web application that will run and control that database. So there won't be a whole lot of time spent on teaching you SQL because you're learning it in this class. That's one of the reasons I decided to do up these help sheets, so that you can save them and have them for your next class when you need to remember how to do stuff. These are all the most common things that you do in SQL. These are the things you will do over and over and over and over and over. Now then, those of you that did not attend the lecture but would like this help sheet, after you have watched the recorded lecture, send me an email. Tell me what you learned in the lecture. Tell me about something you learned in the lecture. And then ask me to send you the help sheet, and I will send it to you. The assessment, guys, is not very hard this week. As long as you follow the steps, read the questions carefully, make sure you get all the elements in there, then you aren't going to have a bit of trouble. I did the assessment in less than 30 minutes. So as long as you're reading everything carefully and make sure you're getting everything, the assessment this week won't take you very long at all. And the assignment won't take you very long as you've watched that lecture and gotten the help sheet. The help sheet will make it go a whole lot faster because you won't have to do any rewinding and playing again to go over a certain part, because you'll have your help sheet as a guide. Otherwise, the assignment is not going to take you too terribly long, probably about an hour and a half, 2 hours to complete it, and then you'll be done. So this week is a pretty easy week. I know that a lot of you struggled last week with week 1's assignment. It was a little complicated. But for anyone that did not get it turned in or did not score very well on week 1 assignment and wants to redo it, this help sheet could come in very handy for you. Because again, I've given you the hints that you need. This is the SQL you're using, and all you have to do is put the statements together and structure them. Give them column names and table names and set your conditions. And it will give you the information that you want. And I've given you extra instructions on the ones from last week's that were really hard. I've given you that extra instructions to help you figure out that query and how to do it. So again, if you would like this help sheet and did not attend the lecture, then all you need to do is watch the first lecture for week 2, Send me an email and tell me about something you learned and ask me for the help sheet. And then I will send it out to you. Any questions, guys? Nope. Okay, well, how are you guys enjoying SQL right now? If I were to give you the poll that I gave you in week 1, let's see if I can pull it up here, and we will just give it. Do you have any knowledge of SQL? What would you say now? Everybody in week one said no. So, what about now? How do you feel now? Do you still feel like you don't have any knowledge of SQL? Everybody answered some. Yes, you guys have some knowledge of SQL now. We're getting there. By the end of the class, the goal is that all of you answer, yes, I have some SQL knowledge. That is the goal of this class, is that by the end that you guys are starting to feel comfortable with SQL and can say, yeah, you know what, I can do this. It's not that hard. The biggest problem that I see with students learning SQL, or even when I was learning SQL, is overthinking it. You don't want to overthink it. Read the question. Take it piece by piece, like I showed you yesterday. And don't overthink it. Do what it says. Because queries are very strict. They're very to the point. There's no gray area there. They are very, very black and white. So when you're reading these questions and trying to figure out how to use the query, break the question apart piece by piece. First, go through and find what it tells you to list, because you know that is the columns. If it says list this or display this, those are columns. So start your select statement. Select, and it says list the title, and it says list the link. So those are my columns, my title column, my link column. Make sure you look at your database in MySQL, and you can see those columns. Make sure it's actually titled title, and make sure the link actually says linked, and it doesn't say something like movie link or movie title. And in the question, it may not say that because it's just a title and it's just the link, but your database names may be a little different. So make sure you're checking that. So then you've got your select statement. So now you do the from. From. What table am I getting this from? Well, it's somewhere in every single question it tells you what table. It'll either say using the movie table or for all the guides. Well, all the guides, they're all going to be in the guide table, right? So you've got your table, from your table. And then you look at the second part. Usually it falls at the end of the question. Where or for any guides that were hired before this date. Or have is a good keyword for your conditions. Have a running length time, or have more than, have less than, that sort of thing. Or have the word. Have is a great indicator that, okay, this is where my condition starts. Break the questions down into smaller pieces. Don't try to figure it out all at once. Take it in steps and start with your select. What comes after the, what's it telling me to list or telling me to display or to show? All of those are keywords that say, hey, these are going to be your columns. This is what the viewer is going to see when this is output. So list your columns. If it doesn't give you any specifics on column, if it just says list the contents, well, that automatically says, hey, that's a generic statement because it wants me to list everything. So you're going to use that asterisk after select. And then go on to your from. Figure out what table that you're working in. And keywords, using or all the guides, there's all kinds of keywords from, but you should be able to read the question and determine, or look at your column names and then search the database and figure out what columns, what table those columns are in, and there's your table. So put your table name and then read the rest of the questions. Okay, does it say have that they're having, or have, or that are, or contain? Anything like any kind of conditions on there. There's no conditions, you're just using that select and from. If you see words in the sentence like have or contain, then you know there's a condition. You're going to need that where statement. Or the question that says find all the guides that do not live in Maine. Do is a keyword for a condition. Do not, so we know we're going to be using that not operator, right? Well, it's in your glossary. All you have to do is find it. Yeah, it's in your operators. Click on it, and then you can scroll through your operators. And or not. There's my not operator, and this is exactly how your code should look. You're going to be replacing column 1 and column 2 with your column names. Replacing table name with your table name, and then replacing condition with whatever the condition is. Where not state equals Maine. I think it's actually Massachusetts. I think the question said Massachusetts. Where not state equals MA. And of course, characters go in quotations. Numbers do not have to be in quotations. They can just be numbers, but the date is not a number because it has those dashes, so it's considered a character. So it has to be in quotes. But this is how this help sheet will help you. And if you will break each one of the questions down into small parts, it won't seem as overwhelming because you are breaking it down in the steps that you need to create the queries in, which helps your mind create things in black and white and no gray or overthinking it, because you're doing it in steps. So you're not thinking about the big picture, you're thinking about these little bitty pictures that make up the entire picture. And take them one at a time, starting at the top. All of them are going to have that select statement, except for the ones where it's telling you to create a table or insert data. Well, those don't start with a select, they start with a create or an insert. But those are the only two variations. Your describe statement is, I guess, the third one, because you can just describe table. It doesn't say select or from, it just says describe. Otherwise, you are always going to start with select, followed by a from, and sometimes a where, an order by, a group by, or sometimes all three. You may have select, from, where, order by, group by. Or you may just have one or two, or none at all. Take them in steps. It will be a lot less stressful, and it will make it a whole lot easier to figure these queries out on your own, because you will start noticing the keywords and your brain automatically says, yep, there's my columns. So I do it and keep reading up. There's my table. And okay, here's my condition. And so you get into that pattern. And so you start seeing these questions and queries in black and white the way you're supposed to. Overthinking them is the #1 biggest cause of why students struggle with doing SQL. But the trick is to do exactly what I told you. Break those questions up into pieces. No, don't try to read them as a whole. Read the question the first time only to figure out your columns. Don't think about anything else in that sentence. So when you get to list, display, show, those are keywords for, that's what you're going to see on the screen. So you know that comes after the select. And then read the question to figure out what table. If for some reason, some questions are a little confusing, I'll give you guys that. you can't figure out the table, that's okay. You already have the column names. None of our tables have the exact same column names. So go back to your columns and say, okay, it says to list the customer ID. It says to list the first name. Okay, well, that comes all from the customer column. So there's your table. That comes all from the customer table. There's your table. And then read the question and find the conditions. Okay, is this, am I supposed to be finding stuff that's more than, greater than, less than, equal to, contains? All of those are keywords for your condition. Most of the time it will say something like, for those that have, or for those that have more than, or greater than, or something like that. And that's automatic condition. Okay, well, this is where my condition goes. If you break them up like that, I promise you'll find things a whole lot easier than when you were trying to figure it out all at once. Okay, guys, well, that does it for our second lecture. I hope you guys enjoyed this week. I will see you on Monday. And of course, as always, if you have any trouble, please let me know, and make sure you tell me in the email when you're available to meet me in Zoom. And we will hop in there and figure out what's going on and get you back on track so that everybody gets their work turned in this week on time. I will see you guys later.